Hello, folks. Welcome back. Chris in Central Pennsylvania. A lot of folks thought that things couldn't get worse during the state capture era of Jacob Zuma, when institutions were captured by private interests for corruption and theft, wholesale theft from the state and from the citizens of South Africa. But one has to question if the era of Cyril Ramaphosa is any better than the state capture era. There's never been a nickname come up for Ramaphosa, but look at what's happened. This man came to office after winning his party's leadership in this late 2017. In early 2018, he became president of the Republic of South Africa. And since then, he's promised ever since then that he is attacking corruption. But corruption is not only endemic, it's pervasive throughout the African National Congress in particular, but also throughout government. There isn't a single day that goes by without more corruption, more reports of theft by ANC officials and government bureaucrats throughout South Africa. That's really shocking, to say the very least, how these people have turned kleptocracy into a national form of governance at the expense of South Africans who have to navigate potholes, criminals, gangsters, home invasions, carjackings, murders, rapes, theft of state resources, bank accounts frozen for no justification, land confiscated without just cause. It really is a sad situation in South Africa. It's so sad to see this country with so much promise just 15 or 20 years ago suddenly so far off the deep end while the world's not watching. But it's not so sudden. It's been going on for a very long time. The tolerance of the ANC of criminals in its midst, for instance, Winnie Mandela, convicted of a kidnapping case during the apartheid era, then later under an ANC government, convicted of corruption and theft of state resources, a convicted criminal, yet she was returned to parliament. Of course, South Africans don't vote for members of parliament. They vote for political parties, and the parties decide who sits in parliament. That's an early one. Of course, we have many, many others of a convicted Tony Yengeni who didn't serve his sentence, just did a few, cursory days in prison, was released and was treated as a hero. Ridiculous. Well, what's the latest? We could go on forever with these things. No accountability in the ANC. Their step-aside policy never enforced unless someone's fallen out of favor with Latuli House, but credibly accused people of all sorts of things. Drs. Whaley and Kesey, Digital Vibes, resigned as health minister, but still sits in parliament years later collecting a paycheck with no criminal charge, despite the fact that the Hawks said that there was prima facie evidence that he committed crimes. What about the asbestos tender, the Vreda dairy farm, the PPE scandals, Andile Lungisa's 168 counts of corruption, Cyril Ramaphosa's Pala money laundering situation and abuse of state resources, perversion of the ends of justice, torture, kidnapping, all those things. Didn't say Cyril did it. I just said, what about all those things in that case? And now the two latest episodes, it showed just what the African National Congress is as it implodes, as South Africans see the party for what it really has become. A pilfering party for the elite and connected who are loyal to Latuli House. The latest two episodes, Dina Pule, a convicted fraudster, brought back into government as a minister. A woman who was convicted of stealing money, essentially, by giving it to her lover illicitly under an unlawful tender, and 6 million rand went into his personal bank account. Where are the criminal charges and where are the criminal prosecutions? And how about jail time for people convicted of crimes? In addition to that, now we have former counselor from the African National Congress for Nelson Mandela Bay, Andile Lungisa, a convicted assaulter. What is an assaulter? Someone who commits thuggery, who attacked a Democratic Alliance member of council with a jug in session, in the council session. Convicted and sentenced to 3 years in prison, which would bar him from serving for 5 years. But the thing is, he only did 2 months in prison. A 3-year sentence, 2 months in prison. The African National Congress is not serious. How can anybody take this party seriously about governance in South Africa? All they do is create more rules and laws to make more innocent people run afoul of the law and to increase state control. They've destroyed the economy. They've destroyed the infrastructure. They've destroyed the education system. They're destroying healthcare. Now they want to expropriate property without compensation because they're just thieves. What the hell is going on here? Andile Lungisa going back into government? Here's the thing. This convicted assaulter, a felony, has been in power since 2022. I bet you didn't know that. The ANC and its National Executive Committee admitted him as a member in 2022, 4 years ago. This 47-year-old convicted of assaulting someone, and just did 2 months of cursory time in prison. This is a joke beyond belief. Meanwhile, Ronaldo Khoz, an honorable member of parliament, is removed from parliament because the cowardly DA falls for public outrage over a nothing burger, a non-incident that never occurred. A video that was 16 years old in which he didn't do what he was accused of, but because fake journalists and the fake legacy media in South Africa had it out for him, he's removed. Julius Malema has been convicted of a felony, discharging a firearm and endangering public safety. He's had a civil conviction against him for inciting the murder of Dante van Wyk. Has he not? Isn't that what the case was all about? 2 convictions, 1 civil, 1 criminal. Yet he sits in parliament. Not just that, he's on the Judicial Services Commission that selects the judges that judge his actions. How are we to take a country like this seriously? I mean, this is not hyperbole. It's not hate of South Africa. Those of you who know me know I love South Africa. This is simply the facts laid on the table. Andile Lungisa, convicted of assault, a cursory time in jail, 2 months for assault, for a 3-year sentencing. What was he let out for? Good behavior? Anger management control? Wow. How can you take the African National Congress seriously when the likes of convicted Dina Pule is brought in as a minister of social development, and this guy is actually being interviewed to be mayor of Nelson Mandela Bay? This is the problem when you have a fake democracy where the people don't select the people that represent them. When parties pick the people who serve as councillors, as mayors, as members of the provincial legislature, and members of the national parliament and the presidency. This is the problem you get. You should have a say, South Africa, not these crooked politicians. Otherwise, you get people who assault others serving as mayor in Nelson Mandela Bay. Can you believe this? Well, if you follow South Africa, you can.